Okay, returning to a Nuevo project, which
Yes.
is excellent project for me. And so explain me a little bit more your influences for Nuevo. You've got a lot of influences around the world, I suppose. Especially, I can listen to Namaste song, and it sounds very, very interesting for me,
I know what you're saying. The truth is, I wanted the album, from my point of view, to be really uncompromising. What I mean by that is, I wasn't thinking who will like this album. How can I make this album like something I did before? How can I please people? What will they like? No, I just made an album to please me and to please Johnson. And, in the sense that just the album we wanted to hear. So, for example, you mentioned Namaste, and I'd always wanted to do a track that had a kind of an Indian feeling, because I love Indian music. And I thought, so Namaste was my chance to do something with an Indian feeling that I'd always wanted to do. And I'd sometimes used on odd tracks, like there's a track called Another World, which is on a compilation of my music called Images of Heaven, the best of Peter Godwin. And there's a track, I did some new tracks for that a few years back. Another World has a slightly Indian moment in it, But Namaste really has a kind of Indian vibe, and even no lyrics other than Namaste, and myself singing 2 lines of vocal that are almost interweaving like as if they were some chanting monks or something. I really wanted to explore that kind of atmosphere, and there's a video for it on the website and on YouTube, which has photographs actually that were taken by a friend of mine, a dance friend of mine, who went to Nepal and Tibet and took these beautiful pictures of the Himalaya and of the monks. And they go very well with the music. She did a slideshow for me, creating a video for Namaste, and it really goes well together because that was the atmosphere. Then again, you mentioned Spanish, and well, Milonga Moon is really inspired by my love of Argentine tango. And it's a tango story. I wrote it, first of all, as a French song on guitar, on a Spanish guitar. Then when it came to recording it with Johnson, we made it more of a groove, more of a dance groove. And then I added the accordion that gave it a slightly tango feeling, even though it's usually, of course, bandoneon in tango, but it's a similar instrument. Then I added Spanish guitar as well. And then, having decided not to sing the French song, but just to speak some of the key lyrics so that the music could come in between and give that atmosphere, then when I met Amanita Sierra, I decided to turn it into a duet and have her singing Spanish around the original lyric against my French. So it became a strange duet. But it has, yes, quite a... I've always liked, Latin music, I have to say. If you listen to Emotional Disguise or Window Shopping on Correspondence, those 2 songs are very Latin in the kind of melodies and rhythms. I've always had an affection for Latin music in general. I like a lot of South Americans, not just tango. People like, for example, I don't know if you know Jorge Drexler.
Yep.
I love his music. Very beautiful lyrics, very poetic, lovely melodies. He actually got one of the first Oscars for Latin America, didn't he? For El Otro Lado del Rio, the song for the Motorcycle Diaries for that movie, got an Oscar, and he became known for that. But he lives in Europe actually, in Barcelona. But I've always liked. In another way, I've always liked Brazilian music, especially bossa nova. People like the Gilbertos, even the daughter, Bebel Gilberto. Because, and when I sing songs like Sunset Rise on the Nuevo album, I always, as I did even with Criminal World at the very beginning of my career, I tend to sing quite intimately, quite soft, which is a feature of bossa nova. To sing like you're whispering in somebody's ear. It's kind of gentle and it caresses you. And that's partly my instinct, my style. I'm not like really a rock singer, I don't really scream it out. I never have. even songs that have quite a full melody, like Images of Heaven, or more soulful in a certain way, like Babies in the Mountains or Soul to Soul. Always in a way I have an intimate approach to the vocal. I like singers that sing like that, and even great singers have sung like that. You know, Frank Sinatra and the great crooners, you know, would sing in a voice that was quite close to speaking to you, but beautiful, of course, and you know. So I like that more than kind of using the voice like a very loud instrument. So I am always, yeah, you're right, I'm pulling influences from many places. There's the Nuevo album, Sunset Rise, has almost, there are 10 songs, and I would almost say that half of it is more chilled out, more relaxed, more mellow, you know, more late night, more sort of sensual in that way. And then the other half is more energetic, more up, more dance. Songs like And I Will Follow, Angels Dancing, they're more, you know, Even Skin, they're more up. But the whole album has got that kind of moody, slightly relaxed feeling, which I think is in a lot of my music, you know.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you are completely hooked on the 80s. So that is the good thing about Nuevo for me, you know, because it's not necessary to be hooked on one stage of your life, right? So
I agree with you. I always feel that when I was making music, when I began with Metro, then in the 80s with Peter Godwin records, I was always looking backwards and I was looking forwards. You know, you're always trying to do something interesting for the time. I do the same now. I think about what I like. I don't think about how can I recreate Images of Heaven, because I've done that and I did it, I think, quite well. You know, I like what I achieved there. I don't feel a need to duplicate it. At the same time, I think you have to be true to yourself as an artist. And in a way, it's a little bit like a painter, isn't it? Painters, if they are lucky enough to have long careers or long lives, people like Picasso, of course, you can look at their work and you see that they have different periods in their work when they are interested in different things. But at the same time, you can see it's them from the beginning to the end. And I feel the same way. It's me. And in a way, people, I think they feel that. It's the same emotion, sensibility. You know, it's about the same kind. I'm interested in the same kind of atmospheres and emotions, but I'm trying to explore them in different ways, including the music, the sound. Yeah. But I also go, you know, for example, there's some Spanish guitar on Milonga Moon. There's actually Spanish guitar on a few tracks, and acoustic guitar, as well as synthesizers and electronics and electric guitar, and that goes back to Metro. At the very beginning, a lot of the songs on the very first album I made are based around, like Flame, for example, is a song I wrote on one Christmas day. It's all written on a Spanish guitar and based around that. Okay. So I've always had that thing of, you know, there are a lot of things that link up to do with the fact that I like to write on Spanish guitar, for example, which I do. Even songs that have ended up played on synthesizers, many of them I wrote on an acoustic guitar, you know. Yeah. But there is, yes, there's a continuity, but also I always look to do something fresh. But most people say to me, yes, this sounds like you. It sounds like you now, which is what I wanted, really.
Yeah, so in Spanish we say that you have your own clue, right?
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, your own sound, your own, your own style. That is the thing that I wanted to mean, you know?
I understand, yeah. That's very important, I think, because yes, I think what happens nowadays a lot, because of talent shows, where people feel they have to impress the public and the judges, like X Factor, American Idol. They feel they have to impress in a very particular way. So in other words, people who are more eccentric as artists in their expression, that we can think of now that have become very famous, everybody, you know, Bob Dylan, David Bowie, Lou Reed, people, Iggy Pop, You imagine those people on American Idol. Kraftwerk, exactly. You put them on American Idol and nobody would vote for them, because American Idol is about one style, really, a big stagey, over exaggerated, very overly dynamic performance with, you know, it's a different thing, and it pushes everybody. I think the danger is that the performances and the voices end up sounding more and more alike. Even if it's a vocal group, they end up sounding very alike. At the same time, the technology has become very alike. Everybody can have the same technology, the same recording, the same instruments, the same sounds. And if you're not careful, you end up with music that sounds too alike. And so more and more, it becomes very important that you sound like yourself, that you have a unique identity. Otherwise, in a way, what are you giving people? You want to give them a special experience that comes from you, and that when they go to your music, they get that feeling that they only get with your music, in a way. You know, you want to give them something special, not something just generic. Yeah. But a lot of music now is to do with marketing, so they think as well that it has to be a very particular style, and everybody has to sing the same style, or it has to fit that style. That's too calculating to me, and I think the great art, you think of some of the great music that, well, anybody, someone like the Beatles or, well, of course, David Bowie, some of his songs, I don't think you could imagine what they fit into. He wrote them so unattached from that concern. Yeah. Like, even early albums like Hunky Dory, a beautiful ballad like Life on Mars. You listen to that song, it's hard to imagine what he was listening to. What is it like? It's not really like any other song. It's like David Bowie, but it's not like anyone else, really. Nobody's written a song like Life on Mars before or after. And that's that's true as well of, I don't know, when Strawberry Fields was written. There weren't lots of songs like Strawberry Fields before Lennon wrote that.
Yeah, the same as Elvis Costello does, right? You always recognize Elvis Costello, for example.
Oh yes, I mean he has a very. I mean I think it's important. I mean sometimes that's partly as well. Yes, about your voice. Exactly. You have to have a voice print, you could call it, like a thumbprint. So for example, if I hear Prince on the radio, he can sing 3 or 4 bars and I know it's him, because he has such a distinctive sound.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but there are other people who they sound like too much like too many people, so they don't sound enough like themselves. I'm more interested in people with I like people to tell their own story in their own style, their own emotions, to give you a special experience from them. You know, that's what I look for, and I hope that's that's what I try to give, really.
Yeah, you do that. That is for sure, Peter.
Thank you, Renato. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
You're welcome. De nada, amigo.